Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. Today I'm going to show you how to hold the violin. Now hopefully when you purchase the violin, you will also purchase something called a shoulder rest. If you don't have one, put 2 kitchen sponges back to back. What you are trying to do is lengthen this thickness or the wideness to fit between your jawbone and your collarbone. You can attach the sponges with 2 elastics, hooking to the end pin onto the corner here. Pull your elastic this way and fit it over here too. So once you have that, you can put it on your left shoulder. Make sure that there is no space between the violin and your neck. It should be flush against your neck. With your both shoulders at the lowest, most relaxed position. Don't lift the left, don't lift the right, or holding both shoulders up, just very relaxed. But you will not feel very comfortable the first week or so. In fact, it will take you about a month to get used to. The violin has its weight, so it's heavy. And when you start playing, you will feel a little bit of pivot against this neck skin here, which over time will create a little bit of mark. And also the wood here will feel like against your jawbone, and you feel probably a little bit of pain and uncomfortableness the first few weeks. But then after that, you'll just get used to it. I highly recommend students to hold the violin at 95% of supporting the violin completely. The other 5%, you can sometimes just use the left hand to adjust to make sure it doesn't fall down. But best to hold it quite securely so that you are free for the left hand to move, to create music and learn the notes. And you don't have to feel like the violin is falling, and therefore you have to shift your positions to hold your violin back up. The left hand. The placement of your left hand is that second knuckle of the index finger meets the corner of the fingerboard. If you place your hand there and then put your thumb just naturally, and first finger falls down, and that is your first note on any of the strings. We're going to do A string. If it's A string, your first finger falls down right where that corner is. That will be approximately where B is. So that is a good security, knowing where your first position intonation should come from. Be careful that this wrist doesn't go up. For the students who do not hold the violin securely, they like to hold the violin with the left hand, so the wrist goes up. That is incorrect. And there are some students goes like this. Neither of these will be good for your intonation, for your pitch later on, because you see, when you go like this, your fourth finger cannot reach out. And when you use your fourth finger, you have to lower your wrist to reach the fourth finger. And that affects all the other fingers, and it'll be very bad for your intonation. So best to have a very steady and straight wrist and placing all 4 fingers down. From this angle, this side, your thumb is right where the first finger is. Just naturally. No need to go forward or backwards. if you look at this way, which is most important, what I'm going to mention is that you see the space here. Make sure you keep that space always open. Make sure that your thumb and your hand do not squeeze this way. That creates incredible tension for your left hand. It will affect your playing, your speed, and all technique from this point onwards. Now you say, well, if I press my fingers down, I need a little bit of strength. And this is the difference you will see. This is the space without me pressing down. This is the space with me pressing down. You see how the space is still open. Never to squeeze this one. And that's very important part of the left hand. And from a distance, your elbow falls just right straight underneath the violin. When you're on A string and even when you're on D string. When you play E string, you could relax or go out a little bit to your left for E string, and then coming towards the right, your elbow come towards the right a little bit towards G string. It should pivot like the rudder in the back of a boat that guides and directs where your fingers are, in which string you're playing. So the elbow, it is important to move. When you're tired, it's best to sit down, but never to hold your violin like this when you're tired. Resting the elbow here. If you do that, the wrist will go to its wrong position again, like I mentioned before. It's hard to be this way. So always have space here. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 down. And that's how you hold the violin. First, when you start holding the bow, preferably you already know how to hold the violin for a few days, that you are secure how to hold the violin. Then you put down your violin, you have your hand, two fingers, somewhat in between the stick and the hair. You're placing a circle on your left hand this way, because you're not supposed to touch the surface of the hair. Having your fingers this way, here you see where the black leather and this part is called the frog, and it's the rubber part, or sometimes it's a leather part. In between that, there is a little space of wood. That is where your thumb, the fingertip of your thumb, going to go and push it up, facing up. And then you put the middle finger and the first knuckle to meet the thumb. But you're not touching the thumb. There is a little space between here and your thumb. So your hand looks like this. Looks like a beak of a bird. And that in between that's where your bow goes. And these fingers, 1, 3, and 4, would look something like this. Your first finger going down just naturally. See where it lands. It should land between first knuckle and second knuckle. So your first finger slightly bent downwards because you are in between the two knuckles, and this just land where it is. Don't push, don't lean, just where it is. And it should be where the first knuckle is. And then your pinky or the baby finger ideally should be in the fingertip. All right, make sure your pinky is not down even half knuckle. Should be completely in the fingertip. Don't let it slip, just right there. And at this point, you are not holding it very heavily because you mostly hold it by your left hand here, and you kind of just balance a little bit. All right, let's try again. So let's say we are holding it like this. Move your thumb to the between the frog and that leather, and put the middle finger in the first knuckle down this way, and first finger lands in between first and two knuckles. The fourth finger, the ring finger, just go down naturally, and then you will find your pinky also lands in the pinky tip, and that is how you hold your bow. Now look this angle. There is a lot of space here. Make sure that these fingers has a bit of strength to sustain in this dome-like shape. Do not collapse it, that looking something like this. You see how I just collapsed here? Now this dome has flattened. Don't do that. Suspend all your fingers up. First finger, if you lift it, you see the space between this finger and the thumb. The space still there, and here goes down this way. Make sure there's lots of room up there. Now, take good care of your thumb. This is the most important part. Try to do a little example for yourself. If you tighten your thumb, you will find your entire arm locks up from the elbow all the way to the shoulder. So don't squeeze the thumb, just place there and push up whatever force that it goes down, and that's it, no more. Don't squeeze against the fingers, and therefore you're actually squeezing the stick. All right, so no need to squeeze that, and you put your finger like that. Now, when the bow is placing onto the string though, it actually not a straight. You see how that is very straight down with the bow? You see the bow, it's straight down this way, your hair is straight. The bow is actually tilt to an angle, to a little bit to the right, to outside. That brings up your wrist and lean down your bow slightly onto an angle. If you focus here, you will see it. So this is straight, this is round over. And your your pinky is touching not the top part of the octagon, but the one over here. When it's round over this way, the pinky is actually on the flat surface of the inner face of the octagon. Okay, so we're going to put the violin up on your shoulder. This time, you put your hand here just to rest. And you place your bow the way we will practice. Look here, so you can tell the hair is not flat completely against the string, but it actually tilted to about 45-degree angle, maybe not quite, about 30-degree angle. And when you hold the violin, if you can let go the left hand, put your bow here, put your left hand here, and we try again. Here, the thumb going up, pushing up, facing upwards. Make sure the thumb is curved, bent, not straight, because the way you are touching the stick is actually here, not the tummy part of the thumb, but the tip part of the thumb. So have your thumb up here, and then the middle finger is the first space, first knuckle. And then that is just right above the thumb, and first finger between 1 and 2 knuckles, and the third finger falls down wherever most likely is the first knuckle, and then the baby finger is at the tip, but it's on the inner line of the octagon. You see how now the hair is up. This is flat hair. This is tilted. You want to tilt a little bit. When you tilt a little bit, your wrist will come up, and that will ensure you to have straight bow. This, you will not travel a straight bow. I will explain that in a little bit. So having your hand, just take care. The dome is there. The thumb must bend. Well, you say, why should I bend the thumb? It works when it's flat. The only thing is, if you flatten the thumb, most likely the fingers will also lengthen. Therefore, they're also straight. When they're all straight, there is very little ability to move the fingers. You need to use the fingers in order to connect the bow, to have a very smooth sound from one place, from one bow to another. So bend the fingers, keep all fingers bent, including the thumb, is very important. We can start A string first. Somewhat between the bridge and the fingerboard, just place there. Don't press down. Feel like you are taking care of something very precious. Feel like your hand is about to stroke your puppy dog or your cat. Something that very gentle. Have your wrist a little higher when you are at the frog. This part of the bow called the frog. This part of the bow called the tip. When you are at the frog, have your wrist a little higher, because if your wrist is flat, you see how the bow is now crooked. It's not straight. You must have a very perpendicular angle in order to have good sound. At the frog, as soon as you press a little hard, it's very sensitive, it will react with very crackling sound. But don't be afraid of that crackling sound. You just start moving the bow. If you move, the sound will not break, it will not crack. If you move it, you will have a loud sound. But if you don't move it, then it becomes very cracking. That kind of sound. All right, so in the beginning, of course, when you first just start playing, very gentle, don't press, and practice in front of a mirror to make sure that your bow is straight. What I mean straight is that it must have an angle with the string, must have a cross. Because then when you travel, then you only have a very clean traveling distance. If your bow is traveling this way, you can tell that is not perpendicular. And every time you travel, every millimeter is struggling to stay in this point. And that the sound will be very struggling. Or then the travel distance is not clean. There's no friction. You don't have to readjust the direction. Just make it violin nice and high. Bow starts this way with the wrist a little bit higher. All the way down to as long as your elbow can do. If you have short arms, you don't have to finish. It doesn't have to go all the way to the tip, just when you're comfortable with your, when you finish your bow. If you can finish here, that would be great. If you finish here, it's okay too. Just wherever is comfortable, all the way down, and then you travel all the way up. Try not to do too fast, very slow. You can count to 8 counts or 4 very slow seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you look in front of the mirror, then you'll be able to see if you are traveling this way, or you're traveling this way, or your angle is correct or not. All that you'll be able to teach yourself. I would recommend you practice somewhere around 50 bows every time you start practicing to guarantee a good sound. I hope that was clear. Any questions, please post on the comment area. Thank you. See you next time.